Well, hello, everyone. My name is Tracy Perry, and I am starting the first Unapologetically Unafraid and Courageous podcast live stream. And I'm so glad that you are here and being able to share in this journey with me. Unapologetically Afraid and Courageous really speaks to the time we live in right now. Everything is upside down. We have a government that is abominable to say the least. And as people, everyone right now is anxious. People are easily frustrated. People are like raw nerves. No one's respectful. There is no civility. The purpose of this channel, the purpose of this live stream and YouTube video is to discuss everything. No topic is off the table, from race to immigration, to gender, to LGBTQIA, to anything that's going on in your life, social injustice, social justice, how you can show up in your life and show up in the world and not be complicit by your silence. Getting out of cowardice, getting out of being fearful of what other people think and what other people say. It does not matter. What matters is you take a stand for those who are marginalized and even for yourself, for your family. It's easy to sit back and to say things like, oh, it's just so horrible in the world. What are we going to do? Well, I will tell you this, because I am a Black woman. We don't have the luxury of sitting back and saying, oh, it's so horrible. What are we going to do? What we're going to do is stand for action, to speak truth to power. Right now, power is really overstepping the guidelines. Power is usurping many people's rights. Trump has made a decision that he is going to be a dictator and whatever he says goes. We can't be surprised by anything really that's going on right now, because we must say, before he even got elected, he said he was going to come after all who had, in his mind, attacked him, all who he thought was spending money. And under the Biden administration, under Obama's administration, he wanted to get rid of all of those people because their allegiance wasn't to him, because he was still holding on to the delusion that in 2020, that election was stolen. That's not the case. When he talks about false or fake news, that's because a lot of the news that's coming out from the White House right now is absolutely fake news. The purpose of this channel is we are to live and make our lives better for the next generations to make their lives better. We don't get to drop this mess in our young people's laps and then stand back and say, oh, they're awful, they're horrible. Look at this generation. No, that's not where it stands. For us, as the elders, we need to show our young people about respect, about standing up for their rights and opening their mouths, because this is not does not start with speaking against what is happening in our country right now and how it impacts all of us, because you are delusional at best if you think that the injustices that are going on for the marginalized do not impact each and every one. If it impacts the LGBTQIA, it impacts Black people. If it impacts Black people, it impacts the poor. It impacts brown people. We can see that. The people who are not marginalized, the people who are not being impacted as much right now, are those of white privilege and the white supremacists and white males. That's where that stands right now. So what we have to do is to address those things. Take a stand. We have to take a stand. Our children's future is at risk. And here's the thing, when I speak about standing up for social justice, standing up for Black people, standing up for all that are marginalized, this is not just that I'm only concerned about my people, because what the truth is that when I stand up and when I support my people and stand for the rights of my people, I'm standing for the rights of all people. Because at the end of the day, this journey we have is not just a Black journey. It's not just a brown journey. There are white people who are on this journey with us. And if one can change their mindset, they have the ability to change a generation. And there are many white people who do want to do that. But the problem is that they're silent. And when you are silent, you are complicit to the racism and the injustices in this country, in the world, and in your home. So it does start with you. It starts with you standing up in your life and being fearless and calling people out, even in your family, regardless if they like you, regardless if they get upset. Let them get upset. There's a saying, every hit dog will holler. When you hit a nerve, they're going to have something to say. But you know what? Let them speak. But you speak your truth. Because at the end of the day, when you see something wrong and you say nothing, you have to live with you. There's no way that you are going to be able to speak in the world and speak in society and take a stand for other people if you can't even take a stand for yourself. So what you need to do and what has to happen is some self-introspection. Are you willing to stand up? Are you willing to look at your family members and your own children and the generations to come and say, you know what? I may not have gotten everything I wanted. I may have had come up against, people coming against me, feeling like I'm the only one, but I did what was right. I did what was right. That's the legacy that you should want to leave your family. That's the legacy that we are obligated to leave the generations to come. Right now, it's amazing. It is amazing right now that things are happening right before our eyes and people are silent. Musk threw a Heil Hitler salute, and people excuse that away by saying, and I've had someone tell me, oh, you can't confuse that. That was for excitement. And he does have autism. There's a lot of people who have mental issues, a lot of people who have different handicaps and do not throw hate signs and symbols of hate. It's totally anti-Semitic. And I didn't see Jewish people coming out in mass because that right there, the motto is after the Holocaust, that never forget, always remember so you don't repeat this. So to not really be outraged by what he did, and he did it twice. And if you don't think it was a neo-Nazi sign, go and look on the neo-Nazi sites and you will see that they threw the exact same sign as he does, the exact same salute. He did it twice. He did it towards the camera and he turned his back and he did it towards the crowd there. And he did it with a passion. And I'm just amazed that no one took that as an abominable offense. But people didn't. People didn't say anything. And I'm like, well, what else will they get away with? I mean, at this point, I'm not surprised about anything. Because if you're able to get up and do something like that and people are not outraged, something much bigger is going on here. And we have to really look at why our voices are not being heard, why there is not outrage. Why are there so many, really at the end of the day, so many excuses given for the hate that is existing right now? Let's look at it. Black History Month? No. Anything Native American month, day, hour? No. Holocaust remembrance? No. Anything that addresses others, and I will tell you, everybody who's a minority, Black and brown and anyone in between, everything is being erased. It is being truly whitewashed, pardon the pun. If you are going to make all the immigrants leave, so be it. When you say that you're also, because Trump said anti-Semitism will not be tolerated. Well, Musk, as we would just address, as I addressed to you all, put up a hate symbol, a hate salute in honor of Hitler, and 6 million Jews were killed behind that salute. 6 million. And you're willing to just let that be. Now, again, Trump said anti-Semitism will not be tolerated anywhere. Well, and that anyone who does it, who is not a citizen, will be deported. Well, my only question is, what time is Musk's plane leaving? He's easy to find. You don't have to round him up. He's right there in the White House or in Mar-a-Lago with you. ICE can just get him, put him on the plane. Seriously doubt he'll say anything. And even if he goes kicking and screaming, just like you move the immigrants out, just throw him on the plane and send him back to South Africa, because that was anti-Semitic. So what I'm seeing is all the double standards, and there are a lot of them. We live in a very dangerous time. We live in a time where all the rights are being stripped. Department of Education, gone. People who should never be over different departments, HHS, Robert Kennedy Jr., really? Who has absolutely no medical training. Hopefully there's doctors that are going to be helping him, but he's anti-vaccine. His cousin, Caroline Kennedy, sent a scathing letter saying that he's telling other people not to vaccinate their children, and all of his children are vaccinated. During the congressional hearing, he actually said, when asked, there had been a statement that he'd made about Black people, in essence, being sturdier. Our immune systems, we're just a sturdier, in essence, people. And when he was asked about it, do you think that Black people should get vaccines? He tried to expand that in Poland, a study was done showing that Black people have a stronger immune system. So they don't need it as much. And the congressperson who was speaking said, you are dangerous, and she will not vote for him. And then after that statement was made, it came out, Poland was outraged and said, that is not the data. He twisted it. Do you see how dangerous this is? Hegseth, whether I'm saying his name right or not, has a symbol of hate tattooed on his body, made it a point that he was going to get rid of everything DEI related, including the Tuskegee Airmen, who during World War II helped to get many pilots home safely because they led the charge. But it was DEI. So we've got to take away anything that people of color have done, take away really anything that women have done, because after all, DEI, diversity and equity and inclusion, that's hateful. You're targeting one specific group, and you're not looking at it as we're all American citizens. We've had white history since the country began. So to acknowledge people, because this country is the great melting pot, to acknowledge people, Black, brown, white, whomever, who have contributed, there shouldn't be an issue. There was an outrage about the Tuskegee Airmen, and they put back their contributions in the Pentagon. The don't ask, don't tell policy is going to be back in the military. That pretty much, you understand what this was. If you are gay, don't say it. They won't ask you, and you don't tell it, because you probably get put out of the military. Trans people, you're going to probably be leaving in droves. I would not be surprised if gay marriage is absolutely revoked, reversed, not valid. Do you see how extreme this is? Do you see how dangerous this is? Look, at the end of the day, I don't care about parties. I am not pro-Republican. I'm not pro-Democrat. I'm not pro-independent party. I'm not pro-unicorn. Bottom line is I need people that are in our government that have integrity and character. Period. I absolutely am unapologetically a Christian. I believe in God. Now, here's the thing. I don't proselytize. You can believe in Jesus if you want to, God if you want to, whatever you want to believe in. This is bigger. This is about believing and respecting and helping each other as human beings. You can have the appearance of being a human being and just be virtually soulless. It is intentional to be a human being because it requires the skill of being human. Yes, mistakes will be made. Yes, things will not always work out. Look, we're not asking for perfection. I'm not asking for perfection in the government. I'm asking you to do what you were hired to do, and that's to serve the people in the best interest of the people and not based on ego and not for your selfish gains, but for the people. We, the people, put you in office. We hire with our vote. We fire with our vote. We, the people, better start standing up, opening our mouths, and speaking. Nancy Mace actually threatened Ms. Crockett to a fight because she does not take nonsense. And as an African-American woman in that chamber, she doesn't hold her tongue and she doesn't hold back, and she comes truly, truly prepared. And she made a comment, and because Nancy Mace wanted to talk about trans, because she is just, oh my gosh, fixated on them. And Miss Crockett said, child. And I am not a child, as Nancy. I am not a child. I'm a 40-some-year-old woman. That's what she said. Her age is. Nonetheless, and if you want to take it outside, we can take it outside. Now, I want you to listen. That is a direct threat of violence. However, someone who looked like her, the chair, said, well, that's not a threat. And then you hear her saying, I'm not threatening. That's not a threat. I'm not threatening violence. Well, she had to backpedal. And so did he. He said she could have wanted to take her for coffee. Let me explain to you. God bless Miss Crockett. God bless her. Not a pushover. I'm sure it wouldn't have gone well for Nancy. But if I had been in that situation, I would have absolutely asked if Nancy and I could leave the chambers and we would return, because we were going to go out and have some coffee. And I would have directly asked her, Nancy, if you don't want to go now, we can go after, because we need to really expound on this dialogue. And I'll even treat you. I'll treat you to Starbucks. And Nancy and I would have gone out and had some coffee. And we would have had some coffee. And we would have had some coffee until we were coffeeed out. And then the next day when we returned, I can guarantee you there would have been so much coffee, Nancy would have never wanted to go out and get another cup of coffee with me ever again, because I wouldn't have stopped serving her coffee. This is what I'm talking about. This level of disrespect, this level of privilege, this level of entitlement. I mean, when I start hearing things and people are coming on YouTube and we know, look, people can have all types of conspiracy theories or whatever. But when we're looking at the prices of groceries going up and household items and people saying, you know what, you better load up. You better load up. You better put it in your basement, your paper towels, canned goods, all. And I'm like, are people building bunkers? Are you serious? In 2025, we have a government where we are so concerned that we have to stock up because we don't know what can come. In the news, you hear threats around Ukraine with Trump that another world war could start. A world war. What? We lack the leadership. So guess what, people? We have to stand in as leadership. Now, I will tell you this, being unapologetically unafraid and courageous is not the most popular thing to do. Speaking truth to power has never been popular, but it must be done. Because if you don't, your rights are going to be stripped. And I say it again, if they strip the rights of one, they're going to strip the rights of all in some form or fashion. Several million government workers were fired via Zoom or some other media outlet, or I don't know if they sent email. I'm sure they sent emails. 2 million. With some having the caveat that if you resigned, you would get 8 months of pay. And for those who didn't, they got fired. USAID, fired. FEMA, I'm just waiting to see what they're going to do with FEMA. Pentagon is going in and coming after anyone that was a supporter of DEI. Fired. Attorneys, states attorneys, federal attorneys being fired. Anyone who came after Trump with the charges, with the felonies, with the proof, holding up his conviction and his innocence because he had no time for accountability, fired. What else is going to be banned? What else? What else? However, I will say this, you can celebrate Black History Month among yourselves. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of churches, Christian nationalism, that are happy. They don't have to mention anything about Black History Month. Not that probably many of them were. Or any diversity, because that's gone. MLK, statement was made. We've celebrated that enough. Enough. It's a shame that people are afraid to speak, that all of Congress, Republicans and Democrats pretty much rolled over, are afraid of what will come if they don't kiss the ring. And many of them have been threatened. They've been threatened. If you don't do it, well, guess what? You won't win in the primaries. So people get silent. The government goes silent. Crickets. And all I can say to that is, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his or her soul? Because what else are you going to be asked to do? If you roll over in one way, you'll roll over in another. We don't have the luxury of saying nothing, of absolutely saying nothing. There are people who are sleeping on the street. There are people who are sleeping in front of the White House over vents. I want you to be aware of this. Whenever pictures are taken of the White House, oh my goodness, it's virtually like a utopian society exists. They never take pictures outside the gates, the very front gates of the White House, where the homeless sit and lay over vents in weather like this. freezing weather. They only take the pictures of the White House and the garden and things that really matter, how it's going to be decorated. Meanwhile, people are sleeping on the street, but at least it's going to be decorated beautifully. At least some of the appointees, one in particular, spent over $130-some thousand on a house, renovations and everything, and said, it had to be done anyway. People are sleeping on the street. People are sleeping in homes where they don't have the best running water. Holes in the homes that need to be patched up, doing the best they can just to survive. But at least the director of the Pentagon got his house renovations done for over $130,000. Isn't that good to know? Because you definitely want him to be comfortable. You get a 6-figure income. Our government gets that. 6 figures. A lot of people don't get that, and some do. And that's not even the whole issue about their salary. I want you to work. I want you to work for the people and stop looking like children, arguing and ranting and name calling and getting absolutely nothing done. You're in a bubble thinking you're getting everything done. And you're not. It's not happening. People are being pushed forward to positions that they're not even qualified for. And as American people, we just have to really sit and watch these things happen. DEI is going to be, that's a thing of the past. The new director of Department of Education said that she, when asked, would she be removing Black history? And she said, I'd have to consider that and look at that curriculum. That means it's going to go because it's going to fall on DEI. So what history are our children going to learn? I wonder how far-reaching this is going to be. Is it going to be taken off of websites? Anything DEI? Because it's considered divisive? When really, division starts with you telling people what they can and what they cannot do and how they can acknowledge diversity. This country was made of immigrants. And there's an issue with talking about contributions. The only people who weren't immigrants were the African Americans who came over here, became African Americans, but the Africans who were stripped from their country and came to America by force of slave owners needing to have free labor. And we know how that went, how sadistic and psychotic the behaviors of white slave owners and the whiteness mentality of supremacy. Came over, forced to work, beaten, tortured, raped, lynched, murdered, burned. That's the history that is trying to be erased from the schools, erased from society, so that no one knows the heinous, cruel, demonic behavior of many of the white slave owners, and many now who don't want what their ancestors did to be revealed. See, that's why I can understand it. I understand it completely now, why the Klan wore robes and covered themselves up, because after all, they went to church in the daytime and, dressed nicely. Some of them had high positions, doctors, lawyers, judges, good Christians. in the daytime and terrorists and murderers at night. So they covered that up because they didn't want anyone to see that they could actually do that to another human being. Fast forward 2025. We've got to erase that history because we don't want anyone to know that as white Americans could do that to another human being. Incorrect. And for all who are people of color, you better tell the story to your children, your grandchildren. You better keep that history out there. You better let them know so they're not walking around oblivious to what has happened in society. You better go and get books while they're still available about the history of African Americans. You better go online and Google and get things and print them out so that you can share that with your children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren, whomever, that you can share it before it's gone. And educate yourselves too. There's a lot we don't know. There's a lot about ourselves, about our other brothers and sisters who are marginalized. Poor people have got something on their hands too. They get something. And sadly enough, for poor people, they have no voice. White, black, and in between, doesn't matter. You have no voice. Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps, monthly cash through the welfare system is going to be stopped. And here's the reality. It's more white people on welfare than there are black people. Granted, it's a disproportionate number because white people constitute the majority, but even in that, shouldn't be so many more of them on welfare, what they perceive as people of color should be. They're the ones who go on welfare. No, it's white people too. Appalachians, parts of the South, working poor. You have no voice. You have no voice. I mean, you're just going to be relegated. You're just being told what's going to happen to you. How much longer are going to be silent? Being unapologetically unafraid and courageous requires boldness. It requires stepping outside of your fear. It requires stepping outside of cowardice. And yes, that's a harsh word, that cowardice. But if you're refusing, if you can see people hurting, if you can see things going on around you and you say nothing because you're afraid that it might offend a family member, it might offend a friend, or how you'll be perceived, that's cowardice. That's cowardice. Would you want the same thing if your child or your mother or your father or your family member or friend was being a target? No, of course you would. You could speak then. But when it's other people who don't look, think, feel, act, love like you, then you can be silent. You feel comfortable in your silence. You see, this is not a channel where it's going to be soft music and candlelights. You are going to get the truth, not to be confused with facts. Facts, verifiable facts, is what we need to look at when it comes to what's happening in our government and what's happening in society, what's happening in the world. You see, truth can be distorted. Your truth could be right now that it's not very cold outside, and my truth says it is cold outside. Well, both of us have a truth, a perspective. Doesn't make it a fact. The fact is, let's work with it, that it's 15 degrees outside, 20 degrees in some areas, wherever. That's a fact. Whether you're cold or whether you're not, that is a fact. And based on that fact, that is where the truth comes for you of how that impacts your life. Emotionalism is not warranted. and it's useless. To start ranting and raving, you've lost all credibility. This is a place that, as the chat grows and grows and grows, that you will be able to come and speak freely, but respectfully. You will not be able to name call. Let me clear this for you now so you don't waste your time. If you're homophobic, if you're racist, if you're xenophobic, if you just are low intelligence, foolish, and just go from site to site, live stream to live stream to see how you can spew your venom because you're miserable and unhappy and have low self-esteem, keep going, because I will block you. And if you come in another format, I will make sure you get banned. This is not the forum for that. And you might say, well, that's censoring. No, that's not censoring. This is my podcast, my live stream. And when I say it's mine, I'm saying it from the aspect of there are guidelines, period. Censoring is what's happening in your government right now. Better not say something that offends someone because they are no longer able to speak or keep their positions. That's censoring. This is saying this is for people to come in to speak, whether we disagree or not. There will be no name calling. There will be no being completely profane for the sake of being profane. We come into this forum to try to make a difference, to bring issues to the forefront that many of us may not be aware of, and what we can do about it. That's what this forum is for. It's not for people who are just made up their mind they're going to be nasty and they're just going to say whatever they want. Not on this one. Not on this one. If that's you, keep it moving. Don't mess around and find out. There's somewhere for you. Just not this live stream and not this platform. We are going to talk about everything and different topics. I'll be bringing different topics every week. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be live streaming and posting videos on Mondays and Wednesdays and posting videos as I so choose throughout the week, depending on what topic really needs to be. Can't wait till the next week, or something that needs to be addressed right away. And to keep you aware. Look, it does not matter if you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, whatever the case. What matters is how we come together to truly unify our country, to truly be respectful of each other, no matter your party line. I've never seen anything so crazy as this. Families have broken up and stopped talking over who someone votes for. Really? You're going to split your family over someone who doesn't know you or cares less about you? You are a non-factor? And you give someone that kind of power to come in and cause so much tension that you're willing to break up your family? Okay. Now, that's not saying if there's toxic people in your family. Well, sometimes you have to step away, love people, friends, whomever, from a distance. If they're diametrically in opposition to what you believe as a human being, agree to disagree. And if it's too much, separate yourselves. But don't let it just be something that you say I'm Republican or I'm Democrat and the line is drawn in the sand. That's just so silly. Life is too short for that. It's entirely too short for that. So I would encourage you to get informed, to look across the different, and they come constantly with the different news sites and looking online for things that are really credible, There's Heather Cox, who is outstanding. She does a audio. She does a live recording, it's not live. And she also does commentary where she'll send you in her newsletter. And she's just a great historian and very objective, and just a wealth of knowledge is an understatement. But she keeps you abreast of what's happening currently and historically. And I've learned so much from listening to her. But also, when you're listening, go back and look at things for yourself. Don't just take it as gospel. A lot of things that are out there that are being said, you can go back and look and research some of these things, even through public records and public information through the government yourself to find out. But conversations need to be had. We have to. We can no longer act oblivious, constantly saying, oh, this is horrible, and doing nothing about it. Absolutely nothing about it. We can make a difference. We will make a difference. Are you willing to make a difference? Unapologetic simply means that I am going to take a stand. I am going to make comment. I am going to stand and speak truth to power unapologetically, fearlessly. Even if I am afraid, I'm still going to say it because I know what's right. Unafraid, again, that boldness. When you see certain things, there should be some type of indignation that says, no, I can't let this be. Participate in the PTAs. Go to town halls. Listen to what's happening that's going to affect you and your community, affect your children or other people's children. Have a voice. Speak. Listen, learn, speak. It's entirely, that's how you make a difference. First, you get educated. Then you go and say, is this something that I'm comfortable with? Is this something that will really help our children? Is this something that will really help our community, our society? And how do I speak to it? How do I address it? For some of you, how do I protest? Going out and actually being activists and protesting. How is it for some? Everyone's not going to do that. How is it? Do I sign petitions? What do I need to do so that I can be a voice saying, no, this is not going to just happen. You're not just going to delegate and tell me what's going to happen like I am a child. The blind following the blind. There are good people in this country, but being good is not always good enough. There has to be action behind it. You have to sit, you have to think, you have to strategize, you have to talk to other people, women coming together and talking about how we can protect our rights as women with our bodies, how we can protect that, and other issues that impact women. People can come together and deal with how we stand as marginalized people. And that's not just for people of color to come. White people, everybody, everyone that breathes can have a voice in that. We educate each other about what our realities are. It's not just listening to people of color, but for us to listen also to white people to see what's this like for you in this day and time. And listen and not be judgmental and not get angry and start screaming because you've asked a question and you don't like the answer. Don't ask the question if you're afraid of the answer, or if the answer you think is going to infuriate you, because that's not healthy dialogue. So you see some of the things that we're going to be talking about. and some of the things that we're going to be dealing with. Now, the talk of the town, the talk in America, and probably outside of it now, is Kendrick Lamar, a wordsmith and the greatest battle rapper of this generation. Intelligent, political, spoke truth to power in front of power when Trump was there at the game. That, and it was said that no other president had done that. And I'm glad that he was able to get there and be a part of that great halftime show, to be a part of hearing Lettucey sing the national anthem. Very, very good to see that the whole, virtually all of the entertainment was Black entertainment. Samuel Jackson, well, Samuel Jackson does what Samuel Jackson does, and his Uncle Sam, outstanding. Serena Williams doing the crip walk. I mean, it was just incredible. So on Wednesday, we are going to talk about that. Tomorrow, because I'm going to do it back to back. So I said Monday and Wednesday. So we're going to talk about that. Part of Black History Month. Kendrick Lamar ushering it in for us, showing us how to be unapologetically unafraid and courageous. Now that's how you do it. That's how you do it. So with that said, I thank you. I thank you for the time. I thank you for your comments. And I am going to have the chat. You'll get information ahead of time. I'm going to start doing these live streams, and the YouTube videos will be 4:30 to give everyone time to get home, no matter where you are, to get home, settle in, or if you can get a break, that you can hear some of it, and if you can't be a part of the conversation, you surely can go back, watch the YouTube videos, and also make your comments there. But again, I leave you with this caveat that even if you make comments on the YouTube videos, do not be disrespectful and bigoted. Just don't do it. Listen to other people's opinions, understanding you have your own also, your own perspective, and speaking to it. If you agree, you agree. If you don't, you don't. But speak to why you do either of them. Open up, your own conversations. Go over the threads and make your own commentary, and people can respond. And you can bring some of these topics right up about it. I will be also sending things over to Threads and Instagram, and of course YouTube, and do some things possibly on Facebook. Got to think about that. I'll do some things on Facebook. Facebook, with at least a link that you can get to YouTube. So with that said, good people, thank you for being with me for this first live stream and YouTube video, with many, many, many more to come. Invite your friends, invite your family, invite people who are acquaintances, associates, but come join the conversation. So, unapologetically, unafraid, and courageous, live that. And come talk about those stories about how you did do something that fit into the title of this podcast and live streams and these videos. So have a wonderful evening. God bless you, and talk to you soon.